Welcome to the TAC Index AI podcast, October 16th, 2025, where we blend TAC IP data, reports, and charts with the latest news and all things logistics with a focus on air cargo. So this deep dive, we're focusing on the really mixed signals we're seeing in air freight right now. That's based on the latest TAC Index data. And we'll also look at how these escalating global trade tensions are really threatening, well, the whole logistics and macro market setup.
Yeah, it's definitely a fragmented picture out there. If you look at the global measure, the Baltic Air Freight Index, BAR's under it, it actually dipped slightly.
Just slightly.
Yeah, just 1.2% week on week. That leaves it down about 4.1% compared to last year.
Okay.
But, that small overall dip hides what's really going on. It's not like a uniform downturn everywhere. The market's moving in, well, different directions in different places.
Right, and Asia seems to be where that divergence is really dramatic. Let me maybe unpack that a bit.
Definitely.
So rates from Hong Kong, that's the BAI 30, they actually climbed 1.7% week on week. This was right after the Golden Week holiday, too.
Mm-hmm.
And that leaves Hong Kong almost flat compared to last year, only down like 1.1%.
Yeah.
But then you contrast that with Shanghai.
Exactly. Shanghai, the BAI 80, it dropped. It shed 3.9% just in the last week.
Wow.
And that leaves it quite a bit lower year on year, down 8.1%.
So Hong Kong's holding up, maybe even strengthening slightly, while Shanghai's feeling more pressure.
Yeah, and that could tell us a couple of things, right? Maybe different types of goods moving, or, and this seems maybe more likely, are companies actively sort of rerouting stuff?
Rerouting away from mainland China.
Potentially. Moving higher value or more time-sensitive cargo through other hubs like Hong Kong as a kind of risk management strategy, adapting even before big policy changes really bite.
Okay, interesting. And this idea of adaptation or maybe resilience, we're seeing that across the Atlantic too, right?
We are, yeah. The transatlantic routes are looking pretty robust. Rates out of Europe going to the U.S. are actually rising week on week.
And year on year.
And they're still, quote, well ahead compared to last year. So, for instance, Frankfurt, the BAI 20, that nudged up 1.8% week on week.
Okay.
And out of the U.S., Chicago, the BAI 50, that saw a really chunky gain, 8.8% up on its outbound route.
Wow, nearly 9%. That does suggest pretty stable, high-value demand between Europe and the U.S. still.
It does show resilience, yeah. But, and this is the really crucial context here, this relative stability in air freight, it's happening against a backdrop where the macro trade picture is, well, it's deteriorating rapidly.
Right, we're moving beyond just standard tariffs now.
Way beyond. You've got China restricting rare earth exports, the U.S. talking about maybe 100% tariffs in response. It's serious escalation.
And this is where it gets really interesting for logistics specifically, because the fight has moved directly into the mechanics of transport itself.
Exactly. Both the U.S. and China have slapped these new sort of retaliatory port fees on each other's ships. These aren't just normal port charges.
No, these sound punitive, like tit-for-tat taxes aimed right at market access.
That's exactly what they are. And it risks this spiral of maritime taxation that could fundamentally distort global freight flows.
And the potential impact isn't small, is it?
No. Some analysts estimate these fees could hit something like 13% of crude tankers and maybe 11% of container ships in the global fleet.
So shipping, which is usually just the pipeline for trade.
Right, the neutral conduit.
It's now become, as you said, a direct instrument of statecraft.
Right.
A weapon, basically.
It's a tool of foreign policy now, plain and simple.
Okay, so if maritime logistics, which handles, 90% of global trade volume, if that's being actively disrupted and weaponized with these fees, doesn't that instability inevitably push some cargo back towards air freight, especially the time-sensitive stuff? Could this maritime mess actually, weirdly, boost air cargo?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, on one hand, you see some economies, like Germany, showing a bit of domestic resilience. They might grow slightly in Q4, but crucially, that growth isn't expected to come from exports. Exports, especially to the U.S., have been weak. It suggests they're relying more internally precisely because faith in stable global trade is shaky.
Because of things like these port fee battles.
Exactly. So yes, maybe some very high-value, urgent stuff gets pushed to air, but the overall drag on the global economy from massively increased supply chain costs due to these maritime issues, that affects everything, including how much people are willing to pay for air cargo. It's a major headwind.
Okay, so summing up then, air cargo is showing these isolated pockets of strength. Transatlantic, maybe Hong Kong, adaptation seems to be happening.
Right, adapting perhaps through rerouting or specific demand.
But the bigger picture, The whole mechanism of global logistics, especially maritime, is now operating under this heavy cloud of political risk. Shipping is being used as a weapon.
Precisely. And given that clear thinking is, well, absolutely essential right now, the really crucial thing for you listen to consider is this underlying fragility. We have reliable data. The pricing intelligence from the TAC index is solid.
The knowledge is there.
The knowledge is there, but the physical means of trade, the ships, the ports, they're becoming unstable, weaponized. So if countries keep using these port fees, sanctions as their main tools in trade fights, how fundamentally do you need to adjust your expectations for supply chain stability and, frankly, the cost volatility that comes with it as we look ahead into 2026?